Imagine bobbing in a tiny wooden boat in the middle of the South Atlantic, 500 miles from the nearest speck of dry land. You have no food, your skin is peeling from the salt, and the water around you is boiling with sharks. But as you look at the person next to you, you realize something even more haunting. They aren't looking at the horizon for a ship. They're looking at the dog shivering at the bottom of the boat. And they were wondering if that dog's life is worth more than their own glass of water. This is the true story of the SS City of Cairo, a disaster so surreal it features a polite Nazi captain, 100 tons of sunken silver, and a survival struggle that pushed the human spirit to a place it was never meant to go. By the end of this story, you'll all understand why the deepest treasure ever recovered from the ocean was into the silver coins found decades later. But the secrets kept by the survivors of Boat Number 6, November 6, 1942. The SS City of Cairo was steaming through the dark waters of the South Atlantic. On board were 311 people, families, soldiers, and civil servants heading home to England. Beneath them, hidden in the cargo hold, sat a secret, 100 tons of silver coins destined to fund the British war effort. But they weren't alone. Lurking in the depths was U-68, a German U-boat. Without warning, a torpedo slammed into the Cairo's hull. The ship groaned, tilted, and began to settle. Panic didn't set in immediately. The crew was professional. They began lowering lifeboats into the swell. But as the last passengers were scrambling down the ropes, a second torpedo struck. This one was the death blow. It didn't just sink the ship. It destroyed several lifeboats, leaving hundreds of people struggling in the water. Then, something happened that sounds like a movie script. The massive steel hull of the German U-boat breached the surface. The hatch opened, and Captain Karl-Friedrich Merten stepped onto the deck. Instead of opening fire, he looked down at the freezing, terrified survivors. In perfect English, he said, "Good night. I'm sorry for sinking you." He pointed toward the nearest land, the tiny island of St. Helena, 500 miles away, and then, like a ghost, the submarine vanished back into the abyss. The survivors were left in total silence. There were 311 people spread across 6 overcrowded lifeboats. And among them, huddled in the damp wood of the boats, were the pets that had managed to jump in during the chaos. In the first few days, there was hope. They had a compass, a direction, and a sense of camaraderie. But the South Atlantic is a brutal neighborhood. During the day, the sun turns the ocean into a mirror, scorching your eyes and blistering your skin. At night, the temperature drops so low your bones ache. And then, there were the shadows in the water. Oceanic white-tip sharks are the wolves of the deep sea. They don't attack like great whites. They are opportunistic foragers. They followed the lifeboats for weeks. They weren't in a rush. They knew that in a lifeboat, time is on the side of the shark. They would bump the bottom of the boats, a constant, rhythmic reminder that one slip, one moment of weakness, was all they were waiting for. As the days turned into weeks, the water rations dwindled to just a few drops a day. This is where the psychology of survival takes a dark turn. Survivors began to experience something scientists call the third-person phenomenon. In extreme trauma, the brain creates an imaginary presence, a helper or a guardian to keep the person from giving up. For many on the city of Cairo, that presence wasn't an imaginary friend. It was the dogs. One dog in particular became a symbol of the entire struggle. He didn't complain, he didn't panic, and he looked at his owners with a loyalty that made the humans feel ashamed of their own despair. But loyalty doesn't quench thirst. Imagine the tension. You are watching your child's lips crack and bleed from dehydration. You have 1 cup of water left. Do you give a sip to the dog that has been your faithful companion, or do you let him die to give your child 1 more hour of life? The dog dilemma became a breaking point for the survivors' mental health. Some argued the animals should be cast overboard to save weight and resources. Others claimed the dog was the only thing keeping them sane. When the brain is deprived of water, it begins to shut down the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic. Hallucinations set in. People began seeing lush green islands where there was only blue. Some even claimed they saw shops and cafes just a few yards away and tried to climb out of the boat to go buy a drink. If you're finding this story as incredible as I did, make sure to hit the like button. It helps us bring more of these forgotten histories to light. By day 14, the boats began to separate. Some vanished into the fog, never to be seen again. In one boat, the situation reached a climax. The dog, once a source of comfort, was now a reminder of their impending death. The records are blurry about what happened to every animal, but the emotional scar it left on the survivors lasted a lifetime. Only 101 people survived the ordeal. Some were rescued by passing ships by pure mathematical miracles. Others actually made it to the coast of South America after weeks of drifting. When they were pulled from the water, they didn't look like humans. They were skeletal, salt-caked figures who had witnessed the absolute limit of human endurance. For decades, the SS City of Cairo was just a tragic footnote of World War II. But in 2015, a team of deep-sea explorers decided to find her. They located the wreck at a staggering 5,150 meters deep. That's deeper than the Titanic. They recovered those 100 tons of silver coins, setting a world record for the deepest treasure salvage in history. But as the silver was brought to the surface, historians reminded the world of the real story. The coins were cold and metallic, but the stories of the lifeboats were raw and human. They found plaques and created memorials, not for the silver, but for the people and the animals who endured those 50 days of hell. The SS City of Cairo reminds us that in the middle of the ocean, silver is worthless. The only thing that has value is the hand you hold, the dog at your feet, and the will to see one more sunrise. If you want to see more stories of incredible animal loyalty and survival, check out this video on the screen right now. You won't believe what this dog did to save his entire village.